the bachelors. He had quarreled with the head of the esquires. He had nearly quarreled with Gascoyne. And then had come the bitterest and worst of all, the knowledge that his father was an outlaw, and that the Earl would not stretch out a hand to aid him or to give him any countenance. Blunt's words brought the last bitter cut to his heart, and they stung him to fury. For a while he could not answer, but stood glaring with a face fairly convulsed with passion at the young man, who continued his toilet, unconscious of the wrath of the new recruit. Gascoyne and Wilkes, accepting Myles's punishment as a thing of course, were about to leave the dormitory when Myles checked them. "Stop, Francis!" he cried hoarsely. "Thinkest thou that I will stay behind to do yon dog's dirty work? No, I go with ye." A moment or two of dumb, silent amazement followed his bold words. Then Blunt cried, "Art thou mad?" "Nay," answered Myles in the same hoarse voice. "I am not mad. I tell thee, a better man than thou shouldst not stay me from going an I list to go." "I will break thy cockerel head for that speech," said Blunt furiously. He stooped as he spoke, and picked up a heavy clog that lay at his feet. It was no insignificant weapon either. The shoes of those days were sometimes made of cloth, and had long, pointed toes stuffed with tow or wool. In muddy weather, thick, heavy clogs or wooden soles were strapped, like a skate, to the bottom of the foot. That clog which Blunt had seized was perhaps 18 or 20 inches long, 2 or 2½ inches thick at the heel, tapering to a point at the toe. As the older lad advanced, Gascoyne stepped between him and his victim. "Do not harm him, Blunt," he pleaded. "Bear thou in mind how new come he is among us. He knoweth not our ways as yet." "Stand thou back, Gascoyne," said Blunt harshly, as he thrust him aside. "I will teach him our ways, so that he will not soon forget them." Close to Myles's feet was another clog like that one which Blunt held. He snatched it up and set his back against the wall, with a white face and a heart beating heavily and tumultuously, but with courage steeled to meet the coming encounter. There was a hard, grim look in his blue eyes that, for a moment perhaps, quelled the elder lad. He hesitated. "Tom! Wat! Ned!" he called to the other bachelors. "Come hither, and lend me a hand with this knave." "An ye come nigh me," panted Myles, "I will brain the first within reach." Then Gascoyne dodged behind the others, and, without being seen, slipped out of the room for help. The battle that followed was quick, sharp, and short. As Blunt strode forward, Myles struck, and struck with might and main, but he was too excited to deliver his blow with calculation. Blunt parried it with the clog he held, and, the next instant, dropping his weapon, gripped Myles tight about the body, pinning his arms to his sides. Myles also dropped the clog he held, and, wrenching out his right arm, with a sudden heave, struck Blunt full in the face, and then with another blow sent him staggering back. It all passed in an instant. The next, the three other bachelors were upon him, catching him by the body, the arms, the legs. For a moment or two they swayed and stumbled hither and thither, and then down they fell in a struggling heap. Myles fought like a wild cat, kicking, struggling, scratching, striking with elbows and fists. He caught one of the three by his collar, and tore his jacket open from the neck to the waist. He drove his foot into the pit of the stomach of another, and knocked him breathless. The other lads not in the fight stood upon the benches and the beds around, but such was the awe inspired by the prestige of the bachelors that not one of them dared to lend hand to help him. And so Myles fought his fierce battle alone. But 4 to 1 were odds too great, and though Myles struggled as fiercely as ever, by and by it was with less and less resistance. Blunt had picked up the clog he had dropped when he first attacked the lad, and now stood over the struggling heap, white with rage, the blood running from his lip, cut and puffed where Myles had struck him, and murder looking out from his face, if ever it looked out of the face of any mortal being. "Hold him a little," said he fiercely, "and I will still him for you." Even yet it was no easy matter for the others to do his bidding, but presently he got his chance and struck a heavy, cruel blow at Myles's head. Myles only partly warded it with his arm. Hitherto he had fought in silence. Now he gave a harsh cry. Holy Saints!" cried Edmund Wilkes. "They will kill him!" Blunt struck two more blows, both of them upon the body, and then at last they had the poor boy down, with his face upon the ground and his arms pinned to his sides, and Blunt, bracing himself for the stroke, with a grin of rage raised a heavy clog for one terrible blow that should finish the fight. CHAPTER IX.